Hello and welcome to A Sense of Centerville in Washington Township, your place for stories about ordinary and extraordinary residents and places in the Centerville and Washington Township area. I'm Susan from Centerville-Washington History, and I look forward to hearing your story. Today, my guests are Rajeev and Surender Goel. Rajeev Goel is a technology entrepreneur who co-founded AccuFit Solutions Incorporated. Through his business, he helps to provide software applications and tools to help metal manufacturers manage their raw materials more effectively. He has been involved in the community through Science Olympiad and more recently, the Centerville Education Foundation. Rajeev is a Centerville High School graduate and the son of Surender Goel, originally from New Delhi, India. Surender moved to the United States to attend graduate school at UC Berkley in industrial engineering. He moved to the Dayton area in 1969 and to Centerville in 1979. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, I appreciate it. We've been talking about this for a while, so I'm really glad that you're here. I feel sometimes that I'm like begging my friends to be on this podcast, but I know that the people who do listen to it really appreciate the stories that we share about Centerville residents. So thank you for sharing your story here with us today. So we're going to start with Surender. And I first asked him to tell us about life growing up in India. So what was life like growing up for you in India?
I come from a very modest, almost poor family in India. My father was a teacher in primary school. So we grew up with the minimal means that we just had enough for food and rent. But my father was a hardworking person, so to make extra money, he started writing books, which became successful, and that's how he managed to send me to engineering school, one of the best top engineering school in India. IIT, I got admission in IIT Bombay as mechanical engineer, and in those days, 1962, mechanical engineering was the engineering to do. I mean, everyone wanted to go mechanical engineering. So I did get admission in it. I went to IIT Bombay and graduated in 67. And in 1967, everyone wanted to come to U.S. for higher education. And you will not believe it, my class of 1967, at least 90% of my class came to U.S. for higher education. And I applied several colleges and got admission in different schools, and I picked Berkeley because it was so popular, so famous. And quite a few of my friends also came to Berkeley, so that helped my decision to come to Berkeley. I landed up in San Francisco. And before coming to U.S., U.S. consulate was offering a program where you could live with an American family for a month before you start the school. And that's what I did. I stayed with an American family for the month just before starting the graduate school. That was my first airplane flight ever to San Francisco, not knowing what airports look like. And And in those days, obviously, there were no cell phones to contact the person who was going to pick me up from the airport. And the only thing was telephones at the airport, which you could call. But since that person was on the way, there was no way for me to contact him. But I knew if I stayed at the airport, hopefully he will find me.
You'd connect eventually.
After 1 hour of searching the whole airport, he did find me because he was expecting me to be where the luggage comes. Mm-hmm. And me not knowing anything, I went upstairs where the check-in was and was waiting there. So ultimately, he did find me.
I'm sure it was like an hour of, how do I find this person?
Right, yeah. And I don't think he knew what I looked like also. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of,
exchanged. Yeah.
So anyway, my first experience in U.S., I came from a vegetarian family, completely no eggs, no meat at all. And I started to live in an American family who obviously didn't know that there are people who live on vegetables only. But I was open-minded, and I was open to eating meat. So that's what happened. I started eating meat at their house.
You had to adapt to survive.
I had to adapt. So first week, and I'm being so naive and not knowing anything, I did have admission at Berkeley College, but I didn't have a place to live.
So you didn't know you had to also get housing.
In India, when you go to, when I went to IIT Bombay, when I first went there, I just went to the dorm, and I said,
I need a place.
I'm going to start the school. I need a room. So they assigned me a room, and there you go. That's what I was thinking, that I'll go to one of the dorms in Berkeley and check in. And so when this American family asked me where I'm going to stay, I said, dorm? He said, do you have an assigned room? Or I said, what do you mean assigned room? I'll just walk in. And they said, really? They helped me a lot because their neighbor was a graduate student at Berkeley. They immediately contacted him and asked him, can you contact the dorm? Because there was only one dorm at Berkeley, and it was called International House. He contacted them, and they told him, no, sorry, we are full. There's nothing left. And here I am with limited funds. I just couldn't go rent an expensive apartment, but I didn't have a choice. The first week, when I went to Berkeley to start my school, I had to stay in a hotel, which was costing me
a fortune.
I think it was probably $15 a day or something, which I just was not able to afford for a long time. But fortunately, that graduate student came after first day, say, hey, we have an opening for you in the International House. Let's go, pack up and leave. And I really got lucky, and I got a double room for sharing with another student, but that worked out okay.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad you survived that first
I survived, yes.
But it's a rough way to begin, isn't it?
Yeah, it was rough. Yeah, it was a very challenging time because my English was not all that great. understanding-wise or speaking-wise, both. But somehow I managed it because I came here to study, and classrooms were fine. I could understand the professors, and obviously all the exams were written exams, and I was good in writing, so that was not a problem. So, and I did graduate in 1 year, my master's degree, because again, I tried my hard to finish up as quickly as possible because of the limited funds.
Right, right.
And towards the end of the year, the last semester, I started looking for a job, and fortunately NCR was at the campus interviewing for their openings, and I was one of the candidates. They interviewed me, and that's how I got the job in Dayton. And when they offered me a job, I took it and came here.
So you've never lived in India since then, right? You've always lived in the United States, visiting regularly?
That is true.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So very brave. Do you ever think about that, how brave you are to do that?
It was, coming here, it was scary because, like I said, I had never left the country before. I had never ridden an airplane before. And
been away from your family?
Away from my family, which, since I went to IIT Bombay, and since I left my family to live in the dorm, I remember the first month was horrible because living away from my family and wanting to go back home, I got used to it. So coming to Berkeley was not that terrifying, meaning away from my family was not that bad. But adapting to the culture, the food was kind of a challenge.
I think that's why we do those kind of things when we're young. We can adapt a little bit better than when we're older.
All right.
Yeah.
When I came to this country, I was only 21.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's a good time for a new adventure.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's a great story. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so we talked a little bit about what brought you to the Dayton area. Let's talk about what were some of your first impressions. So I know you came to Dayton and then you lived in different places, took different jobs. How about Centerville? What brought you to this area? And first of all, maybe what's the impressions you had first of the Dayton area and then Centerville in specific?
Actually, I liked the Dayton area. My first place of living was on Brown Street in Dayton, which was about 2 minutes walk to NCR. That's why I lived there. I didn't have a car at that time. And then after 2 years, I moved to Kettering, very close to my house in Centerville. Mm-hmm. The apartment in Kettering was very close to Centerville. We always used to drive through Centerville, going to Dayton Mall. And so I knew Centerville is a very spacious, open city. And I knew the school system is terrific. And so I always wanted to move to Centerville. And as soon as I got enough money to buy a house, I bought the house in Centerville. Mm-hmm. Kettering schools were also good. So, so when I moved to Centerville, obviously, Rajeev was the first.
Okay, so you're the oldest in the family, and
right. Mm-hmm. He had a little brother who was not going to school yet, so he was the only one who started Centerville School.
Okay.
Driscoll, I believe.
Yeah. Second grade in Driscoll was my first year of school in Centerville, and I remember the story you've told me a couple times where you had bought the house in Centerville but hadn't moved in yet, right? So we were still technically residents of Kettering, but he had enrolled me into Driscoll Elementary, and what, like I went up to my teacher and said, "Oh no, we live in Kettering," and then she contacted the central office or something and said, "We've got a kid who lives in Kettering who's attending Centerville schools. What's going on here?"
But that was okay. You didn't get in trouble. You could stay.
I don't remember what happened exactly.
I think it's that you own the house. But
Yeah, we moved into the house, quickly in Centerville, and
Right.
so everything was
So
resolved.
everything's fine.
Right.
No. So how about coming from, was this your first experience with snow, or did you have any other experiences?
No,
in the Dayton area?
in Dayton, when I moved to Dayton, yes, snow was, the first snow was pleasant because I'd never seen the snow before.
It was magical.
It was magical, but later on when you fell on ice a couple of times, you realize, oh man.
It's hard. Or if you're driving in the snow.
Or you're driving in the snow, yeah.
Yeah. And the cold.
And the cold, yes, yeah.
I'm sure you didn't have
But,
the equipment.
Yeah, as a younger person, you don't feel as bad coping with the snow, but as you grow older, you become more and more sensitive to snow. Yes,
definitely. Any other things that you can think of about that? Your first impressions about the area. So you said it was wide and open. Did you feel like you fit in well?
Yes, people were very friendly. I loved this area. I really like it and still like it. I did move out of area in 1976 for 2 years. And guess what? I came back because I really liked Dayton, or, suburbs of Dayton. And I just couldn't cope anywhere else. When I left Dayton in 1976, I went to a very small city in Illinois, Decatur, lived there for 2 years, and then I moved to Chicago, and I survived Chicago only a couple of months, and then I said, let me go back to Dayton, back to NCR. That's what I like, that's what I love, so I called people in NCR I knew, and they offered me a job immediately, and I packed my stuff up and I came here.
So the city was not your place. It was also the cold of the city, or it just was too busy.
And the traffic in Chicago.
Yeah, traffic in Chicago was killing me. I just couldn't take it.
It wasn't your place.
Right.
And I think that's true, is that we all have, our comfort, what works for you. So also tell me about relationships that you formed. So I assume that there wasn't a large Indian community or population in Dayton.
Yeah, there were very, very few. I would say maybe 20 people, 20 Indians.
How did you find them?
4 or 5 Indians worked in NCR. Actually, 3 more Indians were in the same department I was working in. And there were few others in other parts of NCR. So we started to obviously become friends and started to get together in the evenings to have common dinner. And then somehow, when you go to stores, you will run into somebody else, and that's how we met. And at UD, I remember there were few students which we ran into and became friends. There were a couple of professors, Indian professors at UD, and so that's how we came to know other Indians.
And why was that important to be, find people with a similar experience?
Because of common festivals, food, and the language. We could speak to each other in our native language. Mostly it was the cultural thing to celebrate some of our common festivals together. And
it's like a little piece of home.
right,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
I can see that. There's just so many parts of our life that when somebody's got a shared experience, they understand just like that, just some of the things that
Right.
you can't really explain to somebody who hasn't lived that similar life. How about some of the challenges of living here in the United States, or here specifically in Centerville, or some of the challenges you faced?
Actually, there were no big challenges for me. Because I was kind of easily adapting to things. Probably the most challenging part was bringing up the kids. I always worried what my kids will turn out to be growing up in this culture. That probably was the most challenging thing. Luckily, as it turned out, all the kids turned out to be fantastic.
No, that's great. No, you don't have to have any. I love that, but I think that's a similar. I mean, we all worry about raising our children, and especially because you knew when you were growing up
Right.
what life would turn out, but coming to a new culture, you didn't know how things would work out.
Right. Yeah.
But it often depends upon the parents, and you were the same person, so you were able to parent the way you were parented.
Well, we used to go back to India once every couple of years, and over there, people will scare you that you are going to raise your kids in U.S. Man, they will turn out to be God knows what. And
Drug addicts, criminals.
yeah, right,
They
exactly.
see just movies.
Right.
Yeah.
They are based on what they see in the movies, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's turn some time over to Rajeev. Tell us about your growing up experience in Centerville and what kind of things. Yeah. Let's just start there. Growing up in Centerville.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in Kettering, and so I been here my whole life, and I'm thankful for that. He took some big risks in his life to make that possible, and I feel very lucky. Even starting with elementary school, most of my friends were Indian. We had just in our neighborhood and in our block, for some odd coincidence, there were just an abnormally high percentage of Indian families just in that block of where we live. Also, like, remarkably coincidentally, like, all with kids about my age, like same grade level. Like there were like 7 of us who all were in the same grade and just went through all levels of school together. So yeah, it was good. Went to Driscoll and went to Watts and then went to Centerville High School.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if they found out, there's an Indian family here. Let's live here.
Yeah.
That must have been very fun to.
It was.
To have that kind of community, and especially having people your own age that you can feel real comfortable and share. So let's. What kind of things did you participate in growing up? What was your growing up and then high school experience being involved?
I was a big math nerd. So in middle school, my big thing was math counts. And I had this great math teacher at Watts, Mrs. Bosworth, who really kind of just took me under her wing and gave me, all the tools and resources I needed to sort of explore my passion for math. did really well in the math counts competition. I was, the top in Centerville, and then I think I got like second place at states, and then went on to nationals. So that was a great middle school experience. In high school, I did speech and debate, math club, Science Olympiad, and then sort of outside of school, he enrolled me in Master Kim's Taekwondo. I think that was on Wilmington Pike or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
Was not enthused about that at first, but it grew on me. I really did enjoy the martial arts, and gave me confidence, and helped me physically as well. So it was a good experience. I can't complain.
It's exciting, like as you talk about growing up in a poor family, and then just in one generation, what coming to the United States provided, a totally different growing up experience. But still, you went on and did a master's degree too, right? So followed in the father's footsteps. Okay, what did you enjoy about your high school experience? What were the things that stand out as a positive?
I forgot Odyssey of the Mind. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on Odyssey of the Mind, which now it's Destination Imagination, which is a different organization but serves the same purpose, which is creative problem solving. That, I would have to say, was the highlight of my high school experience. We had Coach Joe Servites was our coach back then too. I know you know Joe.
Wow.
Yeah, he was our OM coach back then. He was my coach.
I had no idea. Okay.
Yeah.
He still works with the Science Olympiad.
Yeah, now he works at Science Olympiad. I don't think he does DI or OM or any of those things, but that kind of just shows his passion for building and problem solving, and he just loves that. So Joe Sr. had a son, Joe Jr., who was my age and in my grade. So Joe Servites Jr. was he was my age. He was on my team. And then we had 5 other students who were also on our team, and we stuck together like anything, and we just became great friends, and we're just hanging out all the time and doing OM all the time. And then one year we made it to globals, and it was the first time I think any Centerville team had, like, at that time it wasn't considered realistic for a small Centerville team. Like, Centerville is like kind of an unknown town, to make it to the global competition. It was kind of like unheard of. So, and I think we were the first. So that was exciting. There were lots of celebration when we came back off the plane. There were tons of people to meet us at the airport. And we got second.
News media was there interviewing you guys.
You're not your first interview.
And not just that we made it to globals, we got second at globals.
Right.
I think the first place team was from China.
Yes. Yeah. I remember that.
Wow.
Yep.
So that was exciting. But yeah, no, my experience at CHS was fantastic. It's a great school. They challenged me. Even back then we had AP classes, which were great for somebody, especially in the sciences and math, who wanted the extra challenge. And yeah, I feel like Centerville was a great school district then and now.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fun. It's fun that you had that experience. My kids were involved in DI when they were younger and went to that global a few times. So now it's much more common.
Yeah.
Centerville's got,
once you know it's possible,
successful. Yeah.
Everybody kind of steps up their game and like, oh, well, they went to globals. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to do it.
That's great. That there's so many ways to succeed, and once you have that vision, and you were the first, so you're the people that made it happen.
And the principal was very
Dave McDaniel.
Yeah,
was it? Okay.
Was very nice person and was very responsive. I remember one incident that after one summer, I used to send him to a summer school out of state.
Purdue, Northwestern, so on and so forth.
And one of the classes I think was during summer he took was some math class,
Algebra 2.
Algebra 2. And when he came back to the next year classes here, they put him back into Algebra 2, which he had already finished. What high school was saying was there's no room in the trigonometry. So I said, I'm going to call Mr. McDaniels. And so I called him, left him a message. He was not in the office. Next thing I knew that he comes home and tells me that Mr. McDaniels took a chair, put it in the trig classroom and transferred him there.
Principal making things happen.
Yeah, he
that's an educator.
Right,
you know?
yes.
That shows, leadership where you're like, not gonna hold this kid back another year. Yeah. That's great. Okay, so Rajeev, you then after high school you went on to college in
Illinois. Yeah, I went to University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and majored in electrical engineering. It was and still is one of the top engineering schools in the country, whether people know that or not. Then I went on to do my master's also in electrical engineering there. And kind of similar to his story, Microsoft had been Microsoft's more of a software company than an electrical engineering company, but nevertheless, I had taught myself to code in high school, and I continued that in college. So even though I wasn't taking any computer programming classes, I sort of knew how to code, and some might say I was even a better coder than a lot of the CS majors who were at U of I. And Microsoft had always been my dream to just go work there. I had just heard so many great things about it, how they treat their employees and how it's just sort of a fun, laid-back work environment. So it had always been my dream. Microsoft came to campus one day at a job fair, and they were collecting resumes and doing interviews, and I handed in my resume, got invited to do an on-campus 15-minute interview, did well in that, and then they invited me to the Redmond, Washington campus to do a full day of interviews, and oh my God, that was stressful because they're 5 interviews back to back, where you walk into somebody's office, everybody's very nice obviously, but then they're like, okay, step up to the whiteboard and you got
this problem solved right there.
Yeah, write a procedure to reverse a string, without using any extra memory, and all this stuff, and you're like, oh my God, I've never done that before. And so you're just writing code on the whiteboard while somebody's staring you down, and
this is where Odyssey of the Mind
comes
into play.
That's right.
Creative problem solving.
But yeah, even without a formal computer science background, I guess I managed to impress them enough, and they made me an offer. And so then after my master's, I misremembered. That was for a summer internship at Microsoft in the middle of my master's program. So then I went out, did the summer internship. At the end, my boss for that summer internship, he told me, he said, look, we like you. We want to make you a full-time job offer. Why don't you skip the rest of your master's program and just start working for us today full-time? And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, the money sounded pretty good.
Right?
The money sounded pretty good. I was like, oh, maybe I should think about that. But then one thing you have to know about Indian families is that the priority they place on education is, unparalleled.
I've
and so
heard that.
So I was like, no, I got to finish my master's. So I went back, finished my master's, and then went back to Microsoft after that. Yeah, worked there for 12 years, got married during that time, brought Shilpa over from Australia to Seattle, and we had 2 girls while we were there, and then left Microsoft, stayed in Seattle for a few more years doing contract work at various startups, and then decided it was time to come here.
What made you decide it was time to come here? Was it just being closer to family?
Yeah, that was... I won't bore you with all the details, but around January of 2016, a bunch of things happened, and it just felt like there was just this big voice. I'm not superstitious or anything, but it just felt like there was this big voice in the sky telling us that it was time to make a change.
So a pull coming back.
Yeah, it was a pull. A bunch of things happened. You know, our dog died, and like Anjali was getting ready for, like, she was finishing 8th grade, so getting ready for high school. So she was it was a transition period for her anyway. Mm-hmm. Shilpa was unhappy at her job. I had just gotten laid off. So a bunch of things happened, and it all added up to maybe it's time to move. But the big thing was, I mean, we wanted to move, but the reason for coming, we could have gone anywhere really, but the reason for coming here was that we knew that we had a lot of friends in the Seattle area who had extended family nearby, and when we saw like their kids growing up with their whole extended family just within, you know, walking distance or driving distance, and being able to like hang out with their grandparents and like have a relationship with them, I was always envious of that. And so I was like, you know what, let's make it happen. And so we came here primarily, well, I mean, we knew Centerville schools were good, so that I won't lie, that was part of it. But yeah, the biggest reason was mostly so that our kids could have a relationship with their grandparents.
Aren't you glad they did?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That made us. That made our life actually change. Made us happy, and obviously, you know. Getting together with them almost every week is a highlight of our lives.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. That's a great reason to come back, to have those.
And he precipitated that his younger brother also moved here after that.
Oh, so we got a family gathering. Just
Right.
have to get sister to come. I don't know. Oh, that's great. Okay, so we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about, let's talk about Science Olympiad first, and then we'll talk about Centerville Education Foundation. So we talked a little bit about Odyssey of the Mind, but you were also a volunteer for Science Olympiad. And what drew you to that? I'm assuming, you know, was Coach Joe there already when you decided to volunteer as well?
Yeah, he was. I mean, like I said, I did do Science Olympiad in high school when I was at CHS, so I knew already that it was a great program. So when we moved back here, and my younger daughter Priya was going to middle school at Tower Heights, as soon as the announcement came out, you know, her very first month that she was at Tower Heights, as soon as the announcement came out that, hey, we're holding an informational meeting about Science Olympiad, you know, I jumped on it and dragged her to it. And that's where we met Karen Hardy and Susan Ralston, who were heading up the Tower Heights Science Olympiad team.
And that's where I met you too.
Yeah, that's where we met.
Mm-hmm.
And amazing people who really changed that whole dynamic for the better. So yeah, I walked up to Karen after that informational meeting and said, hey, do you need, you know, I've got time, I've got the skills, I've got the experience. If you need help in any way, I'm happy to help. And so she had me be, you know, Joe's assistant for a while, and then she had me coach a couple of events of my own, you know, after she realized I was legit. And then
I never was legit.
And so yeah, Priya just loved the SO program there at Tower Heights, and she's continuing it now at the high school as well. And so yeah, I volunteered as a coach at Tower Heights. Even after Priya left, I continued coaching there for a couple more years. Yeah, it's just a great program.
Yeah, it is a great program, and I think that is. I loved that the parents get to work and or not the parents. It's nice to be able to work with children and sharing some of your knowledge. In fact, I did a lot of the ecology things, and it really expanded my understanding of
you have to study
principles.
Just to be a coach. Yeah,
oh man, I would study so much. So, but not about me. Let's talk about Centerville Education Foundation.
Yeah. So when we moved here, kind of, I went to some meeting where John Carroll, the head principal at Centerville High School, was speaking. And after that meeting, I went up and introduced myself to him. And then a couple of weeks later, he called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, I'm on the board of this thing called the Centerville Education Foundation, and we're having a meeting tonight. Would you like to come?" And I was like, "Okay, this is weird. Like, I don't know anything about it. Why are you inviting me? Like, this is just so weird." But I was like, "It's John Carroll asking me to come to a meeting." I'm like, I'm not going to say no. So I went and I kind of learned what the organization was all about. And I think of it as being kind of like the PTO of the whole school district. Like each school has their own individual PTO whose function is to, raise money for the school and extra, curricular programs at the school and, offer enrichment type of activities and events and things like that. And so Centerville Education Foundation serves that function, but for the whole Centerville school district. So we, do a variety of fundraising activities to raise money from alumni and the community. And then we use that money, we give that back to teachers in the form of grants that they can use to purchase extra supplies that they might need to do like a special project in their classroom, which may not be part of the core curriculum. So it's not funded by the district, but it's an idea that they had for some cool hands-on project that they can do with their kids, and they don't want to dig into their own pockets to buy those supplies. I mean, why should they? So Centerville Education Foundation provides grants to those teachers so that they can do those projects. And then we also give out scholarships to graduating seniors to help them with college tuition. We do the Hall of Fame dinner, which is coming up here in May, where we recognize, outstanding individuals in the education community, outstanding teachers, students, alumni, volunteers, things like that. So that's our other big activity. And so, yeah, I'm on the board of trustees, and I mainly take care of a lot of the technical aspects of running a nonprofit organization, like running the website and our donation portal and things like that.
Super helpful to have people like that on a board. So it's kind of like the boosters of the district.
It is. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to put it.
And you're encouraging teachers to develop passions that would benefit the community, the students. So I love that. That's a great way to describe it. And thanks for participating with that. And I know my children have benefited from Centerville City Schools. All of my kids, I have 5, went to all Centerville City Schools from beginning to end. So I'm really grateful that they've been able to have that foundation. So we just have a few more questions. I wanted to focus a little bit about any other experiences about Centerville that you'd like to share. And maybe since we have both of you talking about how things have changed, good and bad changes, things that you remember, favorite places in Centerville. So any of that, like ring a bell or prompt a thought? Things that have changed or...
Well, I-675 didn't exist when I was a kid.
That is true.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine?
I remember going to Fairborn from Kettering to Fairborn. You had to take it probably will take 45 minutes.
It's just like a two-lane road or
right.
something? Yeah. Okay.
But you had to take the Woodman Drive all the way to the Airway Road and then take a right turn and go to Fairborn. But now you just
on the freeway.
On the freeway, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a benefit, yeah.
And why were you going to Fairborn?
Oh, because we had a very good friend who lived there, and even on the weekdays, we used to get together. After work, we will just call and say, hey, let's go play tennis or let's go have dinner together. So either they will come over or we will go over there.
So getting together with friends.
Right, yeah.
And playing tennis.
Playing tennis.
Sounds like you have something in common. Tennis. All right, so no 675. That's a change.
Yeah.
Okay. Or what are the places you love about Centerville? Where are the places you often go to? Is there a restaurant that or a park that you go to frequently?
Yeah, we go to Stubbs Park.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, we go there often for picnics.
Uh-huh.
And there used to be concerts in the
Amphitheater.
There still
amphitheater.
is. There
Yeah.
still is concerts in the amphitheater, yeah.
Um,
You may not go anymore, though.
yeah. So yeah,
It's a beautiful park.
that's a beautiful place, and obviously the libraries are good. My wife used to go to library almost every other day to get either movies or books or something.
I know. Remember when we used to get like DVDs, like
Yeah.
about 10 of them?
Right.
Now we
Yes.
just stream.
Yeah.
Technology's definitely changed.
Yeah.
All right. So libraries. That's a
Libraries.
great part about Centerville. Yes. Yeah. Rajeev, you look like you've got something to add.
No, just in terms of what's changed. I mean, I have memories of Centerville High School where there's this parking lot between East Unit and South Unit where we used to be able to, like, if you had a class in East Unit and your next class was in South Unit, you used to like cut through the parking lot, and all the smokers used to hang out there. And smoking was totally like, it was not a big problem. It was not a problem back then. Like, it was totally accepted. Like, everybody was smoking all the time. And so you're cutting through this parking lot, breathing in all this smoke, and then going to your classes now. Nope.
That's a change for the better.
Yeah, that's a change for the better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we had a smoking area when I was a high schooler too, and I tell my daughter that, and it's like unfathomable that it would be okay to smoke at school.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I really appreciate.
No, it has been great living in Centerville. So it's a really nice community. Neighbors are great, very helpful. I don't think I can find better people to live with than where we are.
Oh, that's great to hear. And we really appreciate, getting to know your family as well. Great friends. So appreciate you being here today and to share some of your experiences. I'll go ahead and wrap up. Thanks to MVCC for helping to produce this podcast, and to my guests, Rajeev and Surender Goel. If you have an interesting story about Centerville or Washington Township, please contact Centerville Washington History. Please also come visit our museums in Uptown Centerville, Tuesday through Friday, 12 o'clock to 4 p.m. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and watch for upcoming events posted on our website, CentervilleWashingtonHistory.org. Thank you and goodbye.